The regular meeting of Lakewood City Council is hereby called to order for July 3rd, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We will now pause for a moment of silence. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Baker,
Here.
Bullock,
Here.
Keppel,
Here.
Litton,
Here.
Marks, Rader,
Here.
Shackner.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held June 20th, 2023.
Move to dispose without the necessity of a reading.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 1, report from Health and Human Services Committee meeting held June 26, 2023.
Committee Chairperson Keppel.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, the Health and Human Services Committee met June 26 to discuss the city's strategy to develop a racial equity plan and partner with the Equus Group. The need for a racial equity plan was identified by the Anti-Racism Task Force, and the task force was instrumental in issuing an RFP and selecting Equus Group to lead the project. Leaders from the Equus Group discussed the objectives of the plan and the steps they will take toward its development, which will include but is not limited to review of city policies, procedures, and ordinances, and stakeholder interviews with department heads, community groups, and with each individual council member. In response to questions, Equus Group discussed the differences between a racial equity plan and other broader diversity initiatives. Like other plans developed by the city and its partners, the racial equity plan will focus not just on matters internal to City Hall, but on issues that have far-reaching community impact. Members of the Anti-Racism Task Force participated at the meeting and voiced support for the plan and for Equus Group. The final plan will come before council for adoption in approximately 18 to 24 months. Move to receive and file that report.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 2, report from Committee of the Whole meeting held today, July 3rd, 2023.
The Committee of the Whole met this evening. Just prior to this meeting, all members of the committee were present, as well as Director Leininger, Director Vargo, and Mayor George. We had one substantive agenda item that was to discuss the agreement between the city and Lakewood Community Services Center on purchasing the parcel in Ward 4 on Madison that we've discussed at length. We discussed the ins and outs of that agreement, some of the adjustments that have been made in the interim, and ultimately did move to adopt the agreement as substituted in that meeting. Move to receive and file that oral report.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 3, Ordinance 13, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing and directing the mayor or director of planning and development to enter into an agreement for the sale of 12900 Madison Avenue.
Move to substitute.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Baker,
Yes.
Bullock,
Yes.
Keppel,
Yes.
Litton,
Yes.
Marks, Rader, Shackner.
Yes.
That motion passes. Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Want to note our excitement that this process is moving forward, of course. Madam Clerk.
Baker,
Yes.
Bullock,
Yes.
Keppel,
Yes.
Litton,
Yes.
Marks, Rader,
Yes.
Shackner.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Item 4, Ordinance 15, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances.
Move to substitute.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Baker,
Yes.
Bullock,
Yes.
Keppel,
Yes.
Litton,
Yes.
Marks, Rader,
Yes.
Shackner.
Yes.
And that motion passes. Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Baker,
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
Keppel.
Yes.
Litton.
Yes.
Marks. Rader.
Yes.
Schachner.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Item 5, communication from council members Bullock, Marks, and Schachner regarding Ohio Issue 1.
Who's taking this one? Councilman Bullock.
Oh, this one's yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear Mayor and members of council, please join us in supporting the following resolution expressing opposition to Ohio Issue 1 on the ballot this August 8th. Issue 1 would end majority rule and the, quote, one person, one vote principle in Ohio by amending the state constitution to require a 60% supermajority statewide vote for future amendments, rather than the current simple majority that has been in place for more than a century. Issue 1 would also make it harder for potential issues to get on the ballot by increasing signature gathering requirements already difficult to attain. We oppose Issue 1 since it would further rig the rules of democracy to harm voters' rights and diminish our power. It would create yet another obstacle for regular citizens to express our will in our communities, joining a long list of others, such as gerrymandering, unlimited, undisclosed campaign donations for super PACs, voting access barriers, and the generations-old problem of excessive special interest influence in Ohio government. State leaders put Issue 1 on the ballot all by itself in a low turnout August 8 election, which will cost Ohio taxpayers $20 million to conduct for what might be argued a political power maneuver benefiting one part of the political spectrum. We say no more, as does the Columbus Dispatch editorial when it said in the headline opposing Issue 1, quote, a yes vote on Issue 1 would drive a dagger in Ohio's heart. A Cleveland Plain Dealer editorial described it as a, quote, State House con, which they, quote, expose, going on to recommend that Ohio voters who oppose this travesty should do everything they can to counter the deceit and manipulation by exercising their constitutional right as citizens to vote. We should protect voters' rights and freedom to make our own decisions and not hand career politicians and special interests more control. To defend majority rule and uphold the principles of one person, one vote, we urge you to join us in supporting this resolution tonight. Since early voting begins before our next council meeting, we request your consideration of this resolution tonight. Sincerely.
Move to receive and file that communication.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Councilwoman Marks.
Yes, I would just like to thank Councilman Bullock for taking the lead on this very important issue, to get the word out, to say vote no on Issue 1. So thank you, Councilman Bullock.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to receive and, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you to my colleagues for bringing this forward. You know, it's particularly insidious, seen as the state legislator, I believe no more than a year ago, outlawed August elections because of low voter turnout, to then, at the very last minute, create a special August election, expecting, I think, low voter turnout. So this is one that I enthusiastically support and thank my colleagues for bringing forward, because we're going to need to remind people to vote in August. It's not a natural thing. So whatever we can do to remind people to get out and have their voice heard is great. So thank you to my colleagues.
Thank you. Councilman Rader.
I just want to add my thanks and support to the sponsors of this resolution, Councilman Bullock, Councilman Schachner, Councilmember Marks. You know, I think as a city, it's also important because a lot of times the state's been taking away our powers to regulate guns, to do all kinds of different things. And sometimes the only way we can get something done in the state is to initiate and go to the ballot and vote, and they're trying to make that harder. A majority should rule here in the state of Ohio, rules in just about everywhere else. And you could do the same thing. We were just talking about initiating a law here in Lakewood. We have a process you go through where you collect signatures and you're able to actually change the law by going to the ballot box. We're just supporting that age-old tradition. So again, thank you. I'm glad to support this vote no on Issue 1 resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anything further? Vice President Keppel.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues, for bringing this forward. I think it's important to highlight with Issue 1, while it might seem wise to make it harder to get things on the in the Ohio Constitution. When we think about that, what that actually would mean is that 41% of the population could control the laws of this land, and that doesn't make any sense. So some of the things, one of the important things that wouldn't have passed in our state if this initiative were in place then would be that women would not have the right to vote in this state. So that only passed with like 3%, so 53% of the vote to allow women to vote. So think about that and that we want everyone's vote to count equally. One person, one vote means that a 50% plus one passage of constitutional amendments represents the majority, not the minority. So we certainly encourage everyone to vote no on issue 1.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just to let folks know, it's a bipartisan group that opposes this proposed constitutional amendment, including former Republican governors John Kasich and Bob Taft. And there's also a bipartisan group of Ohio attorneys general that oppose this as well. You know, it's people who have served and have some distance from the ups and downs of today's political issues who can look back and say, you know, it's not smart to, to tamper with the foundation of democracy for achieving some other political purpose. So cooler heads, I hope, will prevail, and it's not just one side of the political spectrum that has deep concerns here. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Marks.
I would just like to say that, of course, August is a busy month for all of us, so I encourage everybody to vote by mail. You still have time to request a vote by mail application, and you'll be able to do so and vote for this very important issue without having to go to the polls. So vote by mail. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything further on the motion to receive and file that communication? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 6, Resolution 2023-36, a resolution to take effect immediately urging Lakewood residents to protect democracy and vote no on issue 1 at the August 8th special election.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. No. Not that I.
Item 7, report from ADA Transition Plan Task Force.
Vice President Keppel.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, the Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan Task Force met Tuesday, June 27th at 7 p.m. and was joined by Steve Metzer of DLZ, who presented on the progress of the evaluation process and transition plan. The task force will be reviewing the internal review draft of the transition plan document chapter by chapter as they become available simultaneously with relevant city staff for each section. For approximately the next 2 weeks, the task force will focus primarily on Chapter 2, Self-Evaluation of City Policies, Services, Activities, and Programs, Findings, and Recommendations. These are the non-physical items of the city's ADA obligations. This process will continue until all draft chapters have been submitted by DLZ, reviewed by the task force and staff, and then the amended draft will be published for public comment before coming to council for approval. I welcome any questions from colleagues. Move to receive and file this report.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 8, communication from Vice President Keppel and Council Members Baker and Bullock regarding Chamber of Commerce ARPA allocation.
Vice President Keppel, I'm assuming.
Sure, unless I'm talking a large percentage of this very short meeting.
You don't mind.
Right. Dear colleagues, for over 100 years, the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce has served our community, providing information, resources, and services to the Lakewood business community. As we all know, the pandemic was hard on many of our local small businesses and has led many others to change their operations and practices. Wishing to respond to these changing needs of the Lakewood business community, the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce is looking to do a deep dive into strategic planning, upgrade technology and communication tools, and invest in small business support and business startups through membership scholarships as laid out in the attached summary, which updates their original application. As small business support is one of the specifically outlined aims of the state and local fiscal recovery funds authorized by the American Rescue Plan Act, and the entire Lakewood community benefits from a thriving local business community, we respectfully request that this communication and the following resolution be referred to the Committee of the Whole for further discussion, and we invite our colleagues with remaining ARPA funds to join us in supporting the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce and the work they do for our community. Move to refer this communication to Committee of the Whole.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. And before we get into discussion, I know we have two public commenters on this item and the accompanying resolution. So I'd like to call those up now, the first of which is Lauren Small.
Thank you. Okay, now can you hear me?
Cow check would have done it.
Thank you. So I wanted to reiterate thank you for having this resolution discussed this evening. We appreciate it. And I just wanted to reiterate that the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce has been around since 1911 and has supported the business community for over 100 years. We're at a point now where, because of COVID's long-reaching ramifications to our business community, that we need to figure out how to best support businesses going forward so that we can support economic development in Lakewood. I just want to assure you that any resources received would be very prudently watched over and spent wisely in investing in our future of the business community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person signed in for public comment is Troy Bratz.
I think Lauren handled it, but as a board member now for 3 years and member of the Chamber of Commerce for over half dozen years at this point, and continuing on with my second term now in the board, I am looking at trying to take our chamber to what a lot of the other fellow chambers in Northeast Ohio have. We're looking at end up growing what we end up offering to our business community, as well as the individuals that are interested in starting businesses that are current residents, or possibly bringing their businesses into Lakewood. So these initiatives and this strategic plan and the ARPA request that's been put in forward by Lauren and the rest of the chamber board, I feel are the best ways for us to move forward with your support and with council support. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
And we did have another person sign in for public comment. I just want to make sure it wasn't for this item, if it was. Oh, it is. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any comments, colleagues?
Thank you, Mr. President. And thanks to Councilwoman Keppel for framing up today's proposed resolution. So I think what we anticipate today is not necessarily amending or moving to amend and then moving to pass or adopt, but rather to have the ability to talk in committee of the whole in an informal basis with the whole council. Now, some of us have had the chance to talk with the chamber board and with Lauren Small, who's doing good work for the chamber, about finding ways to structure a potential ARPA grant to make it catalytic and to make it something that leads to strategic planning by their organization, because of transitions of a number of kinds. We've sadly, lost a longtime public servant and leader in Lauren's predecessor, Patty Ryan. We've also gone through COVID. Even before COVID, there's the retail revolution, where online retailers are adding a lot of pressure, as Councilwoman Keppel always is focused upon tech tools are integral to business operations. So there's a bunch of trends that are culminating, we believe, in making this a good time for not just the chamber, but really by inference or on the other side of the partnership, also for the city. It's a good time for us to sharpen our focus to understand how Lakewood, the city of homes, and locally owned artisanal businesses will continue in its next century to thrive and retain that character, which, in my view, the businesses, the unique stores and shops and services on the east-west roads in Lakewood help to sell homes on the north-south roads in Lakewood and keep people here because of the unique character of that. So that's a long-winded way of saying that we've already had some thoughtful discussion leading up to today's communication and proposed resolution. We hope to continue that together in committee of the whole soon, and then potentially request that the council consider a funding award soon thereafter. So hopefully that provides some context. Thanks.
Thank you. On the motion to refer to committee of the whole, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 9, Resolution 2023-37, a resolution to take effect immediately, authorizing the mayor and/or director of finance or director of law to allocate and expend a certain amount to American Rescue Plan Act funds to the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce to facilitate small business support.
Move to refer to committee of the whole. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 10, liquor permit notice, Claude Enterprises LLC, 14235 Madison Avenue.
I believe we're in receipt of a report on this one. It is in Ward 3, so with that, I will move to file without objection. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. And that does bring us to the end of our docket in 22 minutes flat. But public comment remains. And we do have one person signed in for public comment. Megan Denman.
My address is 12520 Edgewater Drive, number 907. And I'm here to continue talking up the Lakewood Circulator bus system. I know you've heard me talk about it before, and I think that if persistence is what's needed, I'm willing to do that and then learn more what the best way is to get this to happen, because obviously it's complex and it's costly. And I heard something recently that someone had said when the circulator bus system existed before, there were broken boxes for the payment, and that RTA didn't fix for a long time, and that was used as an excuse. And I don't know if that's true, but if it is, somebody should be looking into that. And yeah, because that's a poor excuse to take the circulators away. So, and I personally don't have a lot of stock in this, but I think that it's important to the community. Public transportation is not convenient for my work personally, but I think, again, it's important for residents in Lakewood and for the future of Lakewood to have something like circulator buses. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming back. Mayor George, did you have something to add?
Yes, I just want to thank you again for being here. And as we've talked before, as you recall, the circulator was run through the RTA. And we also find it was a great community asset, which is why a few months ago we went down to Cuyahoga County, we received an allocation for ARPA dollars to look at a feasibility study at bringing that back. So we're currently working with RTA and other partners to look at potential options to bring that circulator back. Unfortunately, it's a longer process than any of us would want, but it's important to make sure that we look at all options and all avenues at potentially looking at the circulator.
All right. Thank you very much. With that, that concludes our public comment for this evening. Any comments from the administration or updates? Director Gordon.
Council President, members of council, just two things from Public Works. First thing is the sewer interceptor project is going to be starting next week. Just wanted everybody to have a heads up on that lovely project getting started. And secondly, the street resurfacing project's going to get started this upcoming week as well. I don't have a final schedule yet from the contractor, but we should have that in the days ahead.
Thank you. Good updates. Tomorrow's our 4th of July festivities, of course, the parade, as well as the fireworks and all that goes into that. We spend a decent amount on fireworks every year. Of course, we spend the same, if not more, on overtime and time for our safety forces. And I just want to thank our police and fire for all that they're going to do in anticipation of that to keep all of Lakewood and all our guests coming in as safe as possible tomorrow. And also want to welcome Acting Chief Fisher for his first semi-official meeting. Mayor George, did you have something to say?
Well, yes, on that note, I will be officially swearing in Acting Chief Fisher on Friday at noon right here in the auditorium. I will also be swearing in soon-to-be Lieutenant McNeely. So if you're able to join us at noon, please come and join us.
All right. Thank you. I was so excited to talk about the parade. I may have given Director Gordon short shrift. Was there anything else to add? I would hate to do something like that.
Just to clarify, Public Works works as well tomorrow.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And thank you for all you and your team will do tomorrow to keep Lakewood working publicly. Any comments, colleagues, or updates? Okay. Tomorrow's a banner day for Lakewood. I hope we can all enjoy it together. Look forward to seeing everyone. Seeing no further business, I will move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. We are adjourned.